Manx Radio's Update with Beth Espy.
Fastamai, good evening. Welcome to the programme, a roundup of what's been happening news-wise around the Isle of Man today. Coming up in the next half hour, not being able to house vulnerable custody leavers has become a desperate situation on the Isle of Man. That's according to the Probation Service. We'll hear more in just a moment. Also tonight, the next step has apparently been taken towards developing a new wastewater treatment works for Garff, and we'll reflect on the first Meet the Producers event, which was held in the capital last night. As ever, we'll keep an eye on the roads for you as you head home and further afield if you're lucky enough to be going on holiday. And if you'd like to get in touch, 166 177 is the text number, or you can email studio@manxradio.com. First, Christian has a roundup of today's news headlines for us.
Manx Utilities says it's taken the next step towards developing a new wastewater treatment works for Garff. The company has now formalised all of the private land agreements required for the intermediate pumping stations, but hopes to have the planning submission in by the end of this year have been dashed following delays with the associated legal agreements and issues acquiring off-island contractors. Government needs to bite the bullet and tackle the island's infrastructure before committing to any population increase, according to the chair of the Housing and Communities Board. The island's plan document published by government wants to increase the Isle of Man's population to 100,000 over the next 15 years. And Russian Heritage Trust is organising a walk to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Port Erin benefactor William Milner's death. The walk will cover sites such as the Milner Towers plaque, St Catherine's Church and Terrace, and Milner's Tower on Bradder Head. The free event takes place on the 30th of September. In international news now, and the UK Prime Minister has promised a Britain built to last, but said people will have to face the storm first. Speaking at the Labour Party conference, Sir Keir Starmer pledged to create a country renewed by respect and service. The Israeli military says it's killed a Hezbollah commander. The IDF says he was in charge of the Iran-backed group's missiles and rockets. Lebanese health officials say almost 560 people have been killed in Israeli airstrikes yesterday and today. And UEFA has stripped Milan of hosting the 2027 Champions League final. It was expected to be held at the San Siro Stadium, which is due to undergo refurbishment. Those are the news headlines. Next at 6.
Thank you very much indeed, Christian. Just speaking about the roads, we understand that on Quegg Hill there is a car which seems to have reversed into a tree. So at the moment the road is partially blocked, but police, we understand, are at the scene and the traffic is moving. It might just be a little bit slower around there. Now the weather brought to you by Manx Glass and Glazing. Bright or sunny intervals, just a small chance of the odd shower. Mainly moderate northwest winds, and minimum temperatures overnight will be around 7 Celsius. Tomorrow, dry, but then that rain will arrive from the south in the evening, and it will be quite heavy at times overnight into Thursday. Light northerly winds will veer to the east. They will strengthen in the evening as well. Best temperatures tomorrow only 15, and then Thursday it's just going to rain. Forget about it. Sunset this evening 7:11. Sunrise tomorrow morning 7:10.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
Simply income protection from Kestrel Insurance. A choice of benefits, simple underwriting and peace of mind with a regular income for up to 2 years if you're unable to work due to illness or injury. Kestrel Insurance is registered with the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Carpetland, the carpet specialist with the island's best value carpets in stock, often fitted within a week. Furnitureland, for 3-piece suites, dining and living room furniture, and a selection of amazing beds. Carpetland and Furnitureland, West Street, Ramsey.
Manx Mobility and Onken have it all. Daily living aids, wide-fitting shoes, rise recliners, beds and scooters, including lightweight and airline-approved models. Call in and see how our expert team can make your life easier. Manx Mobility at the top of Summer Hill.
At Bond Fabrics, we're not just a fabric shop. As well as curtains and upholstery and dress and costume fabrics, we've knitting and crocheting wools, made-to-measure curtain and blind service, plus poles and tracks. Visit Strand Street, Douglas, call 611856 or see bondfabrics.im.
You're listening to Update here on Manx Radio. It's just gone 4.5 minutes past 5. Now, a senior probation officer has told a court today that a lack of accommodation for vulnerable people leaving custody is becoming a desperate situation. This follows another delay in the sentencing of a defendant who has nowhere to go when he leaves prison. News editor Tessa Hawley joins me now. And Tessa, this is an issue we discussed this time last week. So can you tell us first, has any progress been made in this case?
The short answer to that, Beth, is no. The 28-year-old defendant appeared at Douglas Courthouse again today, where it was revealed that there are still no accommodation options on the table. Just as a reminder, this is a man who's awaiting sentencing for 6 offences, and the recommended course of action is a probation order, but that punishment is difficult to impose whilst he's homeless.
Now, today I understand there was input from the Prison and Probation Service. What did that reveal?
I think it's fair to say that the probation officer who was called to the court was incredibly frank about the severity of the situation, and not just for this defendant but for an increasing number of others in a similar position. She said that despite ongoing discussions between Manx Care and the Departments of Health and Social Care and the Department of Home Affairs, there were simply no options. The bottom line is that they're saying there's nowhere on island that can accommodate him, the probation officer told the court. She also highlighted the lack of a functioning homeless shelter, a drop in the number of landlords who will take tenants who've been through the criminal justice system, and the fact the island's bail hostel is continually full.
So, Tessa, when we talked about this last week, we heard this defendant had been offered a tent and a sleeping bag. What concerns did the probation officer raise about him being released with nowhere to go?
Well, to be blunt, she told the court she didn't think he'd survive without accommodation and proper support on the outside world, saying it was of extreme concern and he would not do well at all. This young man has been let down many, many times, she added. Another probation officer had also told the court she believed this defendant's offending was born out of systemic failings throughout his life and his desperate attempts to access help in the only way he knew how. That was described as a survival mechanism, which was driven by a profound sense of abandonment.
So was there any form of resolution today?
Not really. The Deputy High Bailiff once again reiterated that she was loath to impose a custodial sentence just because there was no accommodation on the island, telling the court, yes, he'll be warm and have food, but that's the extent of it. Adjourning sentencing again for another week, she said she needed to be sure that every avenue is explored before making her final decision. And she told the court, it's staggering to me that there is no suitable accommodation for those who need it most.
Tessa, thank you very much indeed. 7.5 minutes past 5. As we've just heard in the news headlines, following a number of delays, Manx Utilities says it's taken the next step towards developing a new wastewater treatment works for Garff. The company has now formalised all of the private land agreements required for the intermediate pumping stations, and Lewis Foster has more details.
As anyone who's been following the updates on the Manx Utilities website will know, this hasn't been an easy year for the project on the East Coast. As plans for a sewage treatment works in Peel work their way through the planning process, the Garff proposals have hit a few more snags. In April, the MUA said progress had not been as fast as was hoped, with frustrating delays during land acquisition and mobilisation of off-island contractors. The proposed site for the sewage works is at Axonfell, with pump stations at the Cairn, Glengarwick and 3 intermediate pump stations. In June, the MUA said finalising legal agreements for the intermediate pump stations was regrettably causing some delay. Despite that, though, Manx Utilities was still aiming to have the planning application submitted and public engagement events held by the end of the year. It will be giving an update in August, it said. August came and nothing. Just another note to say an update would be provided in early September. And it's not quite early, but the latest information is here. And as mentioned before, it says we are pleased to announce that we have now formalised all of the private land agreements required for the intermediate pump stations. Over the coming weeks, we will be contacting landowners whom will be impacted by pipeline routes ahead of making all of the remaining details of the scheme public. And the MUA ends by saying a public information event is now being planned to be undertaken later this year, ahead of a planning submission next year.
That is Lewis Foster reporting there. And in the past half hour, we've had a statement from Manx Utilities which says the securing of the land agreements is a positive step forward in delivering cleaner seas in Garff. This has taken longer than we would have liked, but it now allows us to progress with other landowner discussions and notifications and to commence the planning process in earnest. It goes on to say we are aiming for public exhibitions in November and hope that residents and businesses will attend to give their views. To provide time to carry out the necessary environmental impact work, undertake the necessary surveys and update any designs following the exhibition, we anticipate submitting the planning application in the first quarter of next year. It's 5:10 now. Police are reminding dog owners to keep their animals under control after an incident in a plantation which saw a horse and a rider sustain injuries. Christian Jones joins me in the studio now. And Christian, our listener may have seen details of what happened pop up on social media at the end of last week.
That's right. On Friday, that's the 20th of September, someone posted a number of photographs on the Isle of Man Equestrian Chat Buy Sell Facebook group. And it was part of an appeal for witnesses and showed injuries that a horse had suffered whilst being ridden in the Archelegant plantation that day. The poster revealed that the injuries had been caused by a large black dog which had come out of nowhere, barking and running at the pair. They said that this had led to the horse retreating into the trees, falling and then throwing the rider in the process, and the dog was kicked by the horse in an effort, the poster claims, to protect itself.
And did we find out what level of injury they say had been caused?
Well, the person posting, who it's believed was a friend of the rider, said the rider had sustained a blow to the head, shoulder, elbow injuries, several cuts, loss of vision, and a rising lump on their head. It was reported that an emergency vet had been required to provide sedation, stitches, injections, and antibiotics to the horse. The appeal on social media asked for the dog's owner to come forward, because they believed that the dog would also need treatment.
So as we know then, this incident was widely shared on social media at the end of last week. So have the police become involved?
Well, yes, but perhaps not as you might expect. So Manx Radio contacted the Isle of Man Constabulary to ask what, if any, action was being taken. And they confirmed to us that they were the ones to approach the rider after seeing the Facebook post, and revealed that the horse rider did not wish to make an official complaint. They go on to say that the rider wanted to highlight the issue to other dog walkers, and they didn't want or need any other further police support outside of that. And police are once again reminding that dog owners that by law their animals must be kept under control at all times, and it is an offence if they are not.
Christian, thank you very much indeed. 5:12. Let's turn our attention to business with Ramsey Crookall now. And unemployment on the Isle of Man increased by 18 people last month. However, the figure rose by 28 people in the 12 months to August. Christian is still here and has the details.
The proportion of economically active people who are registered as being out of work has remained stable at 0.6%. Job centre vacancies saw a drop by 35 roles in comparison to the previous month, with a total of 871. Of those positions, 52% are full-time and the remaining 48% are part-time. The International Labour Organisation estimates 710 people are unemployed and looking for work, equating to a rate of 1.5%. The ILO figure accounts for not only those who may be registered unemployed, but also those who may be actively looking for work but haven't registered themselves as being out of a job. Retail, catering and entertainment and unskilled construction services are among the sectors with the highest number of unemployed people. Meanwhile, the fields with the highest number of job vacancies is in the medical and health services, retail and catering and entertainment. 171 men are unemployed, compared with 94 women. Long-term unemployment is defined as anyone who's been out of work for a year or longer, and as of August, there are 21 people who fall into this category. Geographically, the East is home to the most unemployed people at 176. The North, South and West sit at 46, 29 and 14 respectively.
Christian, thank you so much indeed. Now turning to the stock market report brought to us by Ramsey Crookall. European stocks, they say, traded higher, buoyed by China's central bank monetary stimulus measures and brushing off concerns over Europe's growth outlook. Now, this positive sentiment in Europe comes after Asia-Pacific markets climbed overnight following Beijing's announcement of a range of policy easing measures in a bid to stimulate the economy. London stocks finished in the black, with markets miners pacing the gains after the more positive news from China, a major importer of metals. Oil prices rose on news of monetary stimulation from top importer China, and also concerns that conflict in the Middle East could hit regional supply, while another hurricane threatens supply in the US, the world's biggest crude producer. And gold prices surged to a record high as a cocktail of factors, from hopes of further US rate cuts and the China stimulus measures to elevated Middle East tensions, lifted demand. We're looking at the commodities first of all. Gold finished up 0.68% at $2,646. Brent stands up 0.8% at $74.76. And shortly before the close, the FTSE 100 was up 0.26% at 8,281. And the latest from the Dow Jones a short time ago, it was up 0.29% at 42,251. And the Nasdaq was up very slightly, 0.08% at 17,986.
I'm running late again. Do you know where I put my car keys?
In the fridge.
Where's my phone?
Under the dog basket.
Bye.
You haven't forgotten that we're seeing Ramsay Crookall later?
Oh, no, of course not. 5 p.m, is it?
2:45.
I'll be there.
Life is busy. That's why Ramsay Crookall's team takes time to help you make a mindful investment decision, considering all the options, giving you full control of your financial future. Less stress, more assurance.
Forgot to put my shoes on.
See how we can make your money work for you. Call 717171 or visit ramsaycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Well, just a reminder that on Quegg Hill there was an incident a short time ago. I think a car has reversed into a tree and the road was partially blocked around 10-15 minutes ago. Police were at the scene though, and we understand that traffic was moving, but just be aware if you are heading that way home. Otherwise, all okay on the roads, just the normal things in place, and we know that one-way system is in place on a section of Braddon Road, and that is going to be like that for around 2 weeks, but all okay down at the airport and at the steam packet as well.
Ask how you can spread the cost interest-free at
Quayside.
It is coming up to 17 minutes past 5. It's hoped families on the Isle of Man who have suffered a miscarriage will be able to request a formal baby loss certificate from November. Now, this is after a similar scheme was introduced in England earlier this year. Amy Griffiths reports.
The Health Minister Laurie Hooper has been responding to a written Tynwald question. He says maternity services are introducing a way for people to request a certificate online. It can be offered to either parent and will be backdated to the 1st of September 2018. The electronic application will feature on the maternity webpage, and to be able to make a request, the following must apply. The baby would have been lost before 24 weeks of pregnancy. One of the applicants is the baby's parent or surrogate. The parent is at least 16 years old. The pregnancy ended on or after the 1st of September 2018. The parent lived in the Isle of Man when they lost their baby, or the parent still lives in the Isle of Man. If families have lost more than one pregnancy, they'll be able to request a separate certificate. Rigorous testing of the pathway is said to be due to take place over the next couple of weeks to make sure the process is delivered with care. The go-live date is then expected to be November 2024. Mr Hooper said the care group is working closely with the General Registries and Government Communication Service to devise the baby loss certificate, and that a considerate amount of effort is going into the design as they recognise the emotional weight it carries for grieving parents.
Amy Griffiths reporting, and you can find out more about that at manxradio.com. It's coming up to 18 and a half minutes past 5. Now, we reported this yesterday. An event was held in the capital last night, sought to linking up local producers with buyers from the Isle of Man and beyond. It was called Meet Your Producer and was a joint venture between the Department for Enterprise and the Department of Environment, Food and Agriculture. Siobhan Fletcher went along. So, Siobhan, just tell us first of all, what was the setup?
So it was down at Noah Market Hall in Douglas. It saw a number of local food and drink producers set up basically tables around the hall with the products on display. Nothing was for sale. There were representatives there from the likes of Fnoddery, Popcorn A and Noah itself. The departments behind the night say it was designed to basically give a chance for managers, buyers, business owners of places like cafes, restaurants, bars, pubs, hotels and other convenience shops to explore, sample and network with the food and drink producers who produce things on our doorstep. I sat down with Enterprise Minister Tim Johnston. He told me it was inspired by a trip taken earlier this year.
It sort of stems really from a trip we did to London earlier on the year, where we went down to the International Food Exhibition, and we took a group of producers from the island, drink and food producers, to that event. Fantastic event, an opportunity for them to talk to retailers and really sort of sell Manx produce. It was a really positive event, over £600,000 worth of sales from that event, which is fantastic. So very much on the same theme. Let's do that on Ireland at home. Let's get all our fantastic producers together, as many as we can. Many of them are here tonight. An opportunity for them to talk to supermarkets, to retailers, hospitality, so people get an understanding of what they've got, what they're producing, and hopefully from that build relationships and build custom.
That is the Enterprise Minister Tim Johnston talking to you there last night, Siobhan. Was it busy last night?
Not massively, no. I was there for about half of the event. There were representatives from businesses approaching the producers who had their offerings on display, like I say. So it was essentially a networking event directly between producers and buyers. Tim Johnston confirmed there were reps from the UK too, from the likes of Tesco and the Co-op, who were looking to make connections with Manx producers. But in the year that the Isle of Man Food and Drink Festival was cancelled, I wanted to find out if events like this are enough for local businesses to showcase their products. So I spoke to some of them.
I'm Andre Kleinans from Lush Bakes. I'm going to be optimistic and say, I think as years go by, it may grow, but still the Food and Drink Festival was the ultimate for everybody, because it gets your brand out to the population. It gets people who are local buying, where this event really, you're trying to find the buyer from this shop and the buyer from that shop that's maybe going to take your product.
So I am Helen from the Isle of Man Salt Co. Yeah, I think it's important because it really shows what the Isle of Man is capable of. It's a great showcase for that, and we did an event like this with Business Isle of Man in London in March time, very similar. A few of us went over and we got amazing feedback, and I think it's just important to keep the narrative going that there's great food here and we need to keep that alive. It's not going to die with the death of the Food and Drink Festival. It's very much alive and there's events that are happening.
Hi, I'm Ruth from Rudmite and Fire Island. We're definitely seeing a different demographic here, which is brilliant. So a lot of the people here tonight are weekend workers, so it might be that they don't normally get a chance to get out at the weekend. So, it's a great chance for them as well to come and meet us and see what we do and have a nice chat to us and see how we can help each other.
Hi, I'm Tracy Kelly from Chocky Picky. I think it's an offering to soften the blow more than anything else. And anything else going forward, having met at DEFA a few weeks ago as well, hopefully going forward there'll be more events, larger events, and hopefully they'll build up the reputation that we really all had with the Food and Drink Festival.
That is some of the producers who were at this event last night. Finally, Siobhan, is this going to happen again?
Maybe in the future, yeah. I spoke to Claire Christian, who's the new political member for DEFA. She basically said that her focus is on events like this and also ones that'll be a bit more public-facing. You can hear more from her in the story about this on our website.
Siobhan, thank you very much indeed. 22.5 minutes past 5. Sport time now. Good evening, Darren.
Good evening, Beth. And good evening to you. FC Isle of Man boss Paul Jones has said he wants to see a reaction from his side as they travel to face Abbey Hay this evening in the North West Counties Football League. The Ravens lost 2-1 to West Didsbury and Chorlton at the weekend, which ended their 6-game unbeaten run. Abbey Hay started the season winless in their first 4 league games, but have since taken 6 wins and currently sit 11th in the table on 20 points, 1 point behind the Manx side. Ravens boss Paul Jones said he expects a tough game this evening but wants to see a reaction from his team. The game will kick off at 7:45pm. On to cricket, the Isle of Man national men's team have won their first 2 games of the Dream 11 European Cricket Championships Challenger Division. They followed up a 9-wicket win over Croatia last night with a 26-run win over Bulgaria this morning at the Kartama Oval in Malaga, Spain. The Manx side will be back in action tonight as they are currently preparing to take on Turkey, which will begin at 5:30pm UK time. The match will be streamed live on the European Cricket Network's YouTube channel. Lastly, a survey by social media blog Upfront Footy has revealed that 95% of people believe the FA could do more for women's football on the Isle of Man. The survey disclosed that 50% of the 168 respondents were active players and 60 were females. The 2 biggest complaints in the survey showed that many believed the women's game receives inadequate funding compared to the men's game, and it was also argued there was a lack of competitive game in the island's leagues. FA CEO Lewis Coulter responded to the survey and said feedback from the community is always useful, but insisted developing the women's game is a critical part of the 2024-28 strategy.
Thank you very much indeed, Darren. Now, finally tonight, this year's edition of Manx LitFest gets underway this evening. The 6-day festival takes place at a variety of venues around the island and will also welcome a number of award-winning writers. Committee member Reiki Bennett says organising such an event is a mammoth task.
We put it together as much as we can as far in advance, but obviously some things only come together at the last minute. So like all of these things, there's always a lot of frantic paddling under the surface, and the closer you get to the actual festival, the more frantic the paddling becomes. So we are on full tilt. You know, when you see swans going right across the lake like 100 miles an hour, yeah, that's us at the moment. But it will all come together at the last minute. We rely so much on the Manx public and the Manx community, and it's always so amazing. Every year we see all of these folks coming in from all walks of life, from all around the island, to be able to celebrate literature and find their own creativity and do some writing and just, you know, celebrate all of this. So it's amazing to see the community getting involved with it.
And just finally, I know we're sort of barely into the thick of Manx LitFest 2024. Would I be right in assuming that there's already eyes cast to Manx LitFest 2025?
There is indeed, because a lot of authors have, publishing schedules and their book isn't coming out until next year. There was a lot of folks that we were approaching for this year, and they said, oh, well, I'm in the middle of a book tour, but maybe next year when my next book is coming out, maybe we can pencil you in from there. So unfortunately, I can't say for definite because I don't want to jinx any of the names we've had, but we... touch wood, we are looking forward to 2025 already, yes.
That is Reiki Bennett talking to Howard Kane there. And you can hear much more from Reiki and Howard in our Spotlight programme tomorrow night from 5:30. And you can also find the full programme of this year's events for LitFest at the Manx LitFest website. There'll also be a link on Manx Radio as well. There's so many amazing things that happen with that. And it's great to get some of the writers that we get over here. You will be hearing much more about LitFest as we go on through the week. That is all from the programme this evening. Thank you very much indeed for your company. As always, if you missed any part of the programme and you'd like to listen back, and who wouldn't, go to the podcast page at manxradio.com. While you're there, just take a look at some of the amazing podcasts that we've got that really do cover a whole host of interests, and I'm sure there'll be something that really is for you on there. And you can always contact the newsroom if there's a news story happening in your area. We'd love to hear from you. newsroom@manxradio.com is the best email address. Coming up next, it's Island Life, and this week this focuses on the issue of domestic abuse. It's a report put together by Amy Griffiths. Then from 6 p.m, Chris Kinley will be here with Greatest Hits Live. Then the Folk Show with John Barker will be from 9, and Dave Moore will finish off your Tuesday with After Hours from 10. Whatever you're doing this evening, have a great one, and I'll talk to you again at 5 p.m. tomorrow.